We are back, Fashion Dolls. Thank you for joining me again. We had to start over. We had some technical issues. I'm going to send this back out to Dom. But like I was saying, New York Fashion Week is in full swing. Naomi Campbell kicked off her launch, which would have been Monday, the 5th. Monday was the 5th. And she kicked off her launch for New York Fashion Week with her collaboration she did with Pretty Little Things. And today, Helmut Lang had his fashion show. Still waiting on Christian Siriano. They waited, it was like 38 minutes late. So I was waiting to see that fashion show. But without further ado, let's welcome our guest, Dominic Daniel, Fashion Dolls. All right? It says you're unable to join. What is going on? Let me try again. There we are.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing fabulous. I'm doing fabulous.
It is such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. It is an honor to be on the show.
Yes, in the dollhouse with the main doll.
Hey.
All right. So before we get into this interview, how has 2023 been for you so far? Because the year is halfway out. It's been an interesting 2023. So how's your 2023 been so far?
My 2023 has actually been going great. I just celebrated 15 years with my wife. Thank you, thank you. My daughter asked me something about, well, why isn't it 30 or something like that? And I was like, hey, honey, getting 15 is huge. A lot of people don't get there. 15 days is too much for some people. So
yes,
be excited. So yeah, this has been a great year. Work-wise, of course, there is a strike going on. Strike strong. But it's given me time to focus on some other stuff, as if 2021 and 2020 didn't do that already. But it's always good to get into shifting focus, being able to just pull an audible. It actually got me into writing musicals. I had wanted to do a stage play and be a playwright for many, many years. Never figured out the time. And hey, here's the time. So I've been writing like a busy bee over here and singing my heart out and just enjoying the hell out of it, to be quite honest. So yeah, it's been a good year. It's been a good year for sure.
Now, you're not only an actor, you're an author as well, too. You've written several children's books and went
Yes.
on and so forth and so on. But let's start on your journey from the beginning. Now, you're a Detroit native. Tell us about that growing up in Detroit.
Yes. I'm Detroit Lions, who just won yesterday. Good job for them. Oh, man. My mother was a fashion designer and an entrepreneur.
My mother's my kind of woman. I
Yeah.
love fashion. So
Yeah, she definitely would have been your kind of lady. She kind of started me, indirectly in this path of getting into arts and entertainment. Because she was also a writer. She had written a lot of poems and a lot of short stories, and was working on 2 novels before she passed away. So thank you. She kind of gave me my stepping stones into the art world. She grew up in the industrial, Detroit Motor City, worked in a factory plant for many years. Even though at times, as she expressed to me, she was nervous about what it would be for me to be an artist, she actually is the person who was like, well, we'll try something different, because this ain't it. As far as like just being a person who worked in a plant.
yeah.
So she kind of gave me that initial shove. There was a lot of stuff. I grew up in the late 80s and the 90s in Detroit. So there were a lot of things that I got to be privy to and see, and from gangs to street violence, to also just being able to know people who really stood up for each other, and had a work ethic and a worker's mentality, which is something I've carried into the art field, because I'm sure you know as an artist that artists can be very whimsical, can be very like, well, I'll get it done when I feel spirited to, and every once in a while you got to be like, oh no, we got to put this on a time schedule and get this done. So So I love that. Like that is one of the biggest things that I've ever taken from being in Detroit is just having a work ethic and just getting stuff done. And so, yeah, you know, it was definitely a interesting upbringing coming up in Detroit. You know, my parents, my mother was very, like I said, she was very structured and had things that she, you know, ordered in a way that she wanted things to go. And then the streets when I left outside of my parents' door was a whole different world. And having to always navigate the two was definitely interesting. But I felt like it taught me a lot of things. It taught me how to work with people. It taught me how to negotiate my way out of certain situations, which you eventually take with you when you're, you know, in boardrooms. You know how to negotiate. You know how to listen. You know how to catch those skills and see what you need to do to make what you need happen. So yeah, that was where I started. In there, I was blessed with a number of colorful and wonderful characters, and I just pretty much call them angels in my life. One of them being one of my favorite teachers, Miss McCormick, who was our theater drama teacher. And there's a lot of people she helped to essentially plant seeds and cultivate and turn into, you know, hometown heroes. You know, one of my dear friends, Nico Anand, is on television on P-Valley right now. We were in the same program working with MC and Joel Steingold and man, Dominic. This is a whole plethora of people who came out of that same stomping ground as I did, you know, moving forward into being in the entertainment field. And so that I realized later on in life I was actually uniquely blessed with, because you can imagine that in a Detroit-like urban community, especially because it's not like a New York or LA where it's like, cool, the industry is right in your back door. Those things were very far-fetched for us. And to grow up with a community of like a tight-knit of like 10 people who all kind of had a similar dream and a similar focus. And even though like we all went off to different colleges and stuff like that, we all still did it together. And we do like kind of come back and form like Voltron when necessary or whenever we have a good time to do so. But having that, and I didn't notice it at the time that was such a big blessing. But as we got older, and those of us who kept working at it, kept staying at it, and started seeing success, it was always great to be like, man, like I feel like I know you know my journey, you know, and I don't have to explain it to you, like, because that was one of the big things is going to people and being like, yeah, I think I'm gonna be a thespian. A what? You gonna be a what? Like, you know, uncle's ready to fight me. Like, I'm being a thespian, man. It's okay. Is there, what's that? Like, why are you so mad? Calm down. Stop being so angry. Take that bass out your voice. You don't even know what you're mad at right now. But yeah, I immensely love that particular background. And I don't know what would have been, what I would have been or what I would have done had I grew up somewhere where it was so super accepting. You know, I think for me at least, having to rub against the grain made it better, made me hone down, made me more focused. It gave me a little fire in my belly to be like, oh no, I'm gonna prove you wrong. You know, even from those people who were very well intended, who meant well, you know, and who were like, you're gonna starve to death. You're not gonna make any money. And then the call was like, hey auntie, I got a house. What now? So, you know, it's good to be like, hey, look, you know, you were wrong and that's okay. And then to hear those people at times be like, I'm sorry, I didn't know that you could actually make this as a living, you know? And it's like, all right, cool, great. But I think that happens a lot in any field, you know, especially when people, you're doing something that isn't familiar, especially to your family members. I think a lot of people can, in good intentions, try to deter you from your dream. And I always try to focus, like with my kids or any young people, you know, or anybody who needs to hear it, you know, let them know like, hey, look, they can't see what's not meant for them to see. And you can't take to heart too much because you're meant to see it. So you got to go out and see it. And when you see it, you'll show it. And then they'll know a new way now, you know, so. Yeah.
And then from there, what's so crazy is that you landed a Chevy commercial, the Chevy campaign for the Equinox.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that experience for you.
Oh man, that came by in a very interesting roll of events. I went to LA. I didn't know what to do. You get a theater degree. I love all my teachers and instructors, but you get a theater degree and it means about jack nothing to anybody. It just only means something to you for the most part. But I was like, I need to eat. So I remember I told myself, like, well, I'm going to do something that's in the field, even if it's not, acting. I'm going to do something that's around the field. So I saw from either a friend or something that somebody was hiring for drivers to drop off, headshots and stuff and, different stuff like that, scripts and things to the different studios. So I took that job, was driving around, dropping off stuff. I went to an agency over at Daniel Hoff to do some drop-offs. One of the assistants invited me to audition for something just to join the agency. So I did, and they immediately picked me up that day. Like I went, did my drop-offs, ran outside, changed my clothes, came in, auditioned, and then I got back on my route, and then I got a call from them like, hey, delivery guy, we want you to come back. And I was like, what? Okay, what do I do? I came back, and then the head of the place was like, so you're a delivery guy too, and you can act? And boom. And literally, I want to say like maybe 3 or 4 weeks, it was just a few weeks after that, he sent me out for this Chevy campaign. And it was for the new Chevy Revolution, and I booked it. And it was like 7 or 8 auditions because they were really trying to cast a bunch of different people. But the director, this guy named Brian, wanted to just cast one person to represent America. And it came down like, and I mean like, hey, there were white people that represent America, Asian people that represent America, Mexican people. There was a whole plethora of Latino people, the whole plethora of people. And he argued back and forth with Chevy that, hey, Dom is the person. We don't need a bunch of people. We just need him. He's going to represent America. That's the face. And hey, this became the face for the revolution for Chevy for a bit. So, yeah. So after that, that kind of got things rolling. And then I started to get, auditions in more and more. And I ended up being accepted into Daniel Hoff's theatrical department. So then I was going out for film and television stuff, and things just started happening. They just started clicking. Like I just started booking parts here and there. And then I booked a film directed by Sheldon Candace when he first came out. I think it was like his first like actual film. And it was called Young Caesar. And it ended up taking a while for that movie to finally come out because, it was the product of Hollywood, They were like, oh, yeah, it'll be out in the summer. And I was like, yeah, I'm telling everybody it's going to be out in the summer. And like 2 summers later, it finally dropped. But because of the movie, I ended up meeting a lot of people and then ended up with a manager and just, everything just kind of kept clicking. One part after another. And then I ended up doing like over like 70 something commercials, a number, probably about 20 in this time span now, about 20 or so films, I think, close to, and somewhere about 15, 20 television shows. So it's been a good life. I got nothing to really complain about. As they say, you can always do more and do better, but I can definitely say that I made good on the promise that I made to my mom when I came out here. So I feel good about it. I love it. It's definitely been a good career to me.
And I know she's proud. She's looking down on you.
Thank you so much. Yes. I feel it every day. Like we have, as Jamie Foxx said, we have little chats and we talk, and it's always a good thing, and thank God, my mom was one of those moms who made sure we had a community around me. So I have a whole host of aunts and uncles and as it goes, I got some play aunts out there too, and the play aunts is just as real as the birth aunts, because sometimes they're the ones who call up and give me the most support anyway. So yeah, now I'm gonna get a message, just so you know, I'm gonna get a message from one auntie like, I hope you wasn't considering me one of the ones who don't support. To get some heat because I said that. I love you all, aunties. If any of you watching, I love each and every one of you.
And you've went on, as you said, after the Chevy campaign, to do a plethora of shows. Now let's go down the list here.
Okay.
You've done Agent Shield. You've done How to Get Away with Murder.
Mm-hmm.
You did NCIS LA, Law and
Mm-hmm.
Order True Crime,
Mm-hmm.
Shameless, Animal Practice, The Loop, The Shield. I could go on. We'd be here all day. But
Mm-hmm.
out of all of your projects that you've done, out of all the shows that you've done, which one has to be your favorite?
And it's for different reasons, but I'll tell you right now, doing How to Get Away with Murder, and for two reasons. First reason, Viola Davis.
Love her.
Love Viola Davis. Second reason is because that was the second time I had worked with Viola Davis. And here was the thing. The first time I did a movie called Disturbia with Shia LaBeouf and Viola Davis and Jose Pablo Cantillo. And we spoke briefly on set a couple times, nothing big, and then years, and I think it was probably like 8 years later. 8 years later, I'm on How to Get Away with Murder, and she knew who I was, and and that did two things for me. One, of course, like, hey, just like, oh wow, she remembers. That makes you feel good, right? Okay, that's the first thing. But the thing it really did for me, because for me, my whole entire time, and this was something me and my mom used to talk about that was huge, was how do you represent yourself on set? How do you represent yourself when you are in the public eye? That was a big thing, and I don't know if my mom thought like, oh, you could turn out to be a jerk, so I need to nail into you, don't be a jerk. I don't know what it was, but that idea of like how you represent yourself has always been a big thing for her, and it became a big thing for me. And the idea, because when I met Viola Davis, she wasn't a household name. She wasn't big at the time when I first met her doing Disturbia, but there was buzz about her, and people was like, oh yeah, she's good. She's been on Broadway, and of course, seeing her in her scenes, I was like, man, she's amazing. All right, she kills it. She really brings it. And then after doing that movie, I think she did the movie with, I'm sure there's probably something in between, but the movie with Meryl Streep came out, I think it was called Doubt or something like that, which then like she had huge buzz about. So she went on to, of course, become Viola Davis and do all these huge things. And here we are meeting again some 8 years later. And hey, if she didn't remember me, wouldn't have been a big deal. Totally would have been fine. But she did. And to me, that said something about the character of her as a person. She is one of those people who makes it a point to get to meet people, get to know people, talk to people. Like, she's not one of those, oh, what are you? You're here for 2 minutes. Ugh, I don't need to. Like, and that happens in Hollywood, I don't talk to PAs or why are you over here? I've had people when I'm on set be like, Don, why are you talking to those extras? And I'm like, because they're human beings. What do you mean, why am I talking to the extras? That's the stupidest thing ever. Like, they're people. And if I'm walking by and they say hi, I say hi. I don't act like I didn't hear it or turn my sunglasses and nose up. And so the fact that she was just this really it's overused and cliche to say, but down to earth person, who literally when we started talking, she put our phone, started showing, we just started talking. It was like somehow we had been friends and we hadn't seen each other in a while. And I was quite just kind of taken aback and surprised by it. Because like I said, so much this woman had been catapulted into icon level status. Yes, exactly. And I'm like, it's like, that's like on the level of like, I don't know, I bump into Beyonce somewhere. And she's like, hey, Dom. I'm like, what? Me? Like, so, because I've worked with people of way less stature who act like, oh, did we work on something? And you're like, really? Seriously?
Right.
Oh, okay, cool. So it was just something about that interaction that kind of solidified kind of a path for me that I should always stay level-headed. That all that extra isn't necessary. Because, you hear a lot of people always try to justify it by being like, oh, but they're big now. And it's like, no, you can be as big as you want and you can still be a human being. You can still treat people like a human being, or kind of like drinking, you can let the status bring out your inner a-hole and act a jerk, that's just how I look at it, but so that's why it was just a really, really great moment to me. And it really meant and it probably meant more to me than it meant to her. So, she was just probably like, passing time, but I think that's what it is. When you're just being you and you're just being whatever, whatever that means for you, you're just doing what you do. And then it happens to be a blessing to other people.
Yes. And you went on to do the film Get Shorty alongside Ray
Yeah.
Romano and Chris.
Yeah.
So what was that experience like for you?
It was great. That was my first time doing a recurring role of multiple episodes. You know, I've done some like 2, 3s, but then this was like, you know, I went on for 2 seasons for that show. So that was the first time that happened. And when I first signed my first contract, it was supposed to be, I was supposed to be in and out. And then, you know, then I got a call back before I even left set, like, hey, they want you to come back. They want you to come back for another episode. They want you to come back for another episode. So that was great. And Chris and Ray were both cool guys to kick out and hang out with and just chit chat. The funny thing I think is that I feel like I've worked on set with many comedians, and a lot of comedians that I've worked with, there's like a lot of joke telling. There's like just, you know, having fun, bits, all that kind of stuff. I think Ray was like the first person I worked with who's like, he didn't really have bits. He didn't have any, like, I mean, we talked about stuff, talked about sports, talked about traveling, talked about his son, you know, traveling at the time. But it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't like a lot of bits. And that was a surprising thing for me, like working with comedians, because I was like, oh, we can get some bits. And I think I tried a bit at one point in time, and maybe that's what shut all that down and made my bits suck. It's like, I ain't gonna do no bits with this guy. So maybe that's what it was. I don't know. But still, like, he was still a cool guy, still a great vibe. And so, yeah, that was a great experience. And I loved going back to the show. And it was one of those things where it was kind of like, you know, it wasn't a guaranteed thing. So that also makes you really appreciative when they're like, oh, I ain't going to work this month. And then you get a call like, hey, we need you for 2 weeks. Come on out here. Come on out to Arizona. You're like, oh, I got a job. It's cool. So, because that's the other thing of acting is like.
Now, speaking of film and television, I said, speaking of film and television, you went on to start your own company, Rock City Media.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about Rock City Media.
Well, Rock City, being from Detroit, Detroit has many names and monikers, and Rock City is one of them. But also for me, it was a bit of a spiritual thing. There's a quote in the Bible that says, "Upon this rock."
Yeah.
And I've always reflected on that and thought about it because it's about foundation. And so that's where the name for me of Rock City comes from. It's kind of a mixture of the fact that I am from Detroit, which is the Rock City, and about that quote about building a solid foundation of something. And so that was the thing. Like I wanted to start to do shows that I don't always see. I wanted to do shows that speak of different experiences, because I've never been the type of person who just migrates to my own experience. You know, the world's a big place. And before I started doing film and television, I did my own stage show. Me and a friend of mine wrote a comedy show called Biden Bannister's Stunt Comedy Show. And we got to tour the world. We went from here to Singapore and back. And so in that time, I got to meet a lot of people, a lot of different stuff. And one thing I definitely learned for sure, I think once you get out of like the American scope of viewpoint of things, it's like a lot of times we've been sold a bag of goods that aren't so good. And it's like you get to meet other people from other places, like, oh, they're not even like what I thought they would be. Because I was only going by for some stereotype I saw on TV. And I also had the same experience of people saying that to me, like, oh, you're from, I thought you would be different. And it's like, all right, cool, great, you know? And that connection was kind of what I wanted to be able to be a part of with starting my own production company. Because for good or bad, I feel like a lot of things in Hollywood are just, you know, they're just, you know, they go with the cliche, they go with the stereotype. And then you do have those artists who break out of those molds. And I wanted to do that. I wanted to do something that broke, you know, that helps to break out that mold and give voices to people who have something to say.
And that's what a lot of actors, especially actors of color, I've sat with a lot of actors here on this platform, and they're just saying, I want to break that stigma. I don't want to be just categorized as this one particular character or
Mm-hmm.
directors play this one particular character here. I want to step outside of the boundary, which brings me to my next question for you. What is the most challenging role that you've ever had to play in your career?
Oh man, I would have to say I played a boxer in a movie called God's Ears with an amazing, talented director, um, Michael Worth, um, who also is a former kickboxing champion, martial artist, a karate specialist. Like he's worked with like some of the biggest names in the actual like martial arts world, and also in the film and television martial arts world. So this is like not like an actor who does it. Like this is a legit could kick your heart out kind of person. And when I booked the role, we didn't immediately get to shooting. We had about like 2 weeks. And so I had 2 weeks to try to like match up and get into shape of what this dude was. And that was a very grueling 2 weeks for me because I had also just recently broke a rib. And so yeah, so it was like, all right, I had separated this, the not broken, but I separated the muscle from my actual rib bone, and I was healing up from that. And then I went on set to start doing the show, and then I ended up cracking a rib while I was on set. And I still had to keep filming. And so, but outside of even just the punishing part of it, of that part, it was just kind of like the getting into the role, because it was the first time I actually played a character that was like a jerk. And I'm that's not really like my thing. I'm not the kind of person who goes around bullying or picking on people or whatever so forth. But it was also a part that I was like, I'm sure I can tap into. And so it was kind of dealing with that, with kind of tapping into that energy, which is an energy I normally fight against. Like I have most of my life considered myself to be like the anti-bully, and anytime I see anybody being bullied, I'm the person who's willing to jump up and be like, yeah, I'll get beat up. I'm willing to get beat up to defend this person, and I've always been that way. So to play the opposite of that was just kind of an interesting thing to kind of step into that skin, but also then to try to add some humanity and some layers to it, and find like, where's the level where you don't just feel like this person's a total jerk. Where is it that you can see like, hey, this person's also dealing with something, was what I tried to do, to be sympathetic to the character. So that was a really interesting role to do. Not to mention my director was also acting with me at the same time, which is he did it amazingly. Like it made me feel like I'm not that good of an actor, because this guy would have a full character and he have a stutter and all this kind of stuff going, and they would be like, okay, cut, we got that scene, all right, cool, and then be like, all right, in action, and then just go right in the character, everything. And I was like, man, why I be sitting in my trailer telling me, okay, gotta get ready. I was like, this dude just doing it, in and out, fluid. So that was also like an interesting, but also it was another layer of a challenge, but also really interesting to watch somebody do and kind of be there and be like, oh, okay, all right, man, maybe one day I'll try that, and so on and so forth. So yeah, it was a great experience.
Now, you've also went on to write children's books, and you have a book out currently right now as we speak. So tell us a little bit about your current book that is out right
now. So right now, I probably should have had one sitting here. Hold on. On my bookshelf. Right now, and we're working on the second version of this. Is a book called Take Flight. And it actually came out of me running out of stories with my kids. Kids want a story every night. Sometimes they want 2 or 3 of them. Sometimes you're tired, you just don't want to read no more. And a part of it was like, all right, well, cool, I'm gonna turn the lights off now. because you know you gotta have the lights on and longer lights
Yep.
on. I don't have those kind of kids who gonna fall asleep with the lights on. If there's an atmosphere that feels like excitement, they're gonna be up. They're high energy just like me. So you gotta take that tone down a little bit, get it dark. And so it came from around those times where like we went through 2 stories or 3 stories sometimes. And then it's like, all right, look, I'm gonna turn the lights off and I'm just gonna tell you a story. And that became like for my kids, like something that they really liked. And they started requesting like, Daddy, tell us a story, make a story up. And so, so that's kind of how that story started, you know, and you know, it started just from the idea of people determining for you what you should be and how you have to kind of like we said in the early beginning, how you have to kind of fight against that to show who you are and what you want to be. And so for me and as a parent, that's one of the biggest things, you know, having gone through life, you know, I know you as well, having gone through life, we know how many people, you know, you're going to stumble into who try to tell you how to live your life, who try to redirect you in a different direction. Some of them good, some of them bad, you know. But at the end of the day, the idea of living your own life is so important to me because personally, I feel like we are all here for a purpose in this journey through. And I think if we were all meant to live the same avenue and same pathway, then it would all just be the same. It'll all look plain. We'd all look the same way, so on and so forth. I think the whole point of the differences, why I enjoy celebrating the differences so much, is that each difference brings something different and something new to the table. It brings a different flavor that we can all enjoy, and we should allow people to express. So essentially, I end up writing all of that kind of through the voice of a little duck who wants to be an eagle because he thinks the eagles, you know, are the top priority, and he discovers that, hey, being a duck is really great because ducks can do things eagles can't, you know. And a big part of that was from my own research of looking up ducks was like, oh yeah, well, ducks' ability to swim separates them from eagles, and actually in like kind of a duck eagle dog fight, you know, ducks will dive into the water and eagles can only go down for so quickly for a short time, where ducks can go down and stay there for a minute, you know, and then they got to take off. And so the duck's ability to be able to dive into water and swim becomes the thing that saves the day, and becomes the thing that he's championed for, but at first was persecuted about, you know. So I, you know, and hopefully like when kids read it, they get that underlining message that's there, but also hopefully they just enjoy it, you know, and enjoy this thing. My kids love laughing at the fact that there's a duck who yells out "quack" trying to sound like an eagle. So it's the little things that like kids are like giggling about, and you're like, oh, okay, whatever. I'm glad you enjoyed that part. But yeah, so that now there's a part 2 that'll be coming out this Christmas for that, and then another children's book that I wrote that's called Leader of the Pack, that is about, it's essentially an adoption story, and it's about a family of wolves who take in a panther. And the deeper meaning for me is about the journey of Africans to America coming into the land of Native Americans. And from my family history, there's a mixture of both cultures a lot. And I try to, as best I can, represent and appreciate those cultures. And so kind of in this story, that's what I'm doing. Because the panther being a creature that is native of Africa, you know, being captured and brought to America to basically be put into a zoo, but escapes and ends up being taken care of by a family of wolves, which is a very native creature to the American soil, and is raised that way, but also while respecting that journey, has to learn to appreciate their own journey as a panther, you know, but still respect this upbringing that they got. So that was just kind of something that I wanted to kind of do, that kind of reflected on the ideas of adoption, which I think branch out to more than just people who adopt people like legally as children. I know in my family, and I know in a lot of African American communities, and beyond that, you got people who've taken on their nieces, nephews, cousins, all that, and there's no legal documentation. But if you ask that person who raised you, they'd have to be like, "Oh, my grandma," you know. And also just like the communities of family. I know, like myself, like moving to LA with no real family, I just had a community of friends from like either high school or college who was like, "Hey, we got you," you know, and that really became like my family, and I don't know what would have happened or what would have become of me without those people. So I feel like the idea that's kind of like you kind of make your own family is kind of an important thing to me, because I understand that some people may not be blessed with like getting that nurturing family unit from day one, but it doesn't mean they can't have it.
Absolutely. And that's important in this business is having and establishing great boundaries along with your friends and family, and more importantly, family support. So I don't know where I would be without my mom and the rest of my family and friends supporting me 100%
Mm-hmm.
in this journey.
I feel like it's so important because I feel like we heard a lot of rhetoric over the past couple of years about bootstrapping and being a person on your own island and all that kind of stuff. And every time I hear that, I can't help, like, I believe, like I said, in work ethic. I believe in, doing your thing and working hard for what you believe in 100%. However, though, I know that no person is on their own island. It's pretty much virtually impossible. You know, and so I feel like we should acknowledge it. We should acknowledge, like, hey, there's many people who went into this village of helping Don Daniel become Don Daniel. And each person out there, I thank them. And sometimes, I think sometimes we in a non-appreciative way, or maybe we don't know we're not being appreciative, don't realize that help could just be the person who came and helped us for a day, a few hours. Maybe came and said a good, kind word that we needed at the time we were feeling low, And then sometimes it could be that person who loaned us that money when we needed that money, or whatever. So I just think it's a big thing to always be aware of, and to reciprocate and put out there. So I'm trying to do it I'm trying to work in children books now because I feel like there's a lot of messages that we miss growing up that we should have gotten. And so hopefully I'll be a part of helping put that in there.
And inspire the next generation that is coming up afterwards.
Yes.
Right. So where can people purchase Take Flight? Is it available on Amazon?
It's on Amazon. You can get it at Target. I'm the worst person with promoting stuff. But pretty much Amazon, Apple, anywhere where books are available, you can go online. It's not on the shelf at Barnes & Noble, but you can go on Barnes & Noble's site and get it from there, Google Books, or you can get it directly from my own website at imakeamericagreat.net. So go there. It's there. I think I have a link to it in my Instagram thing. So that's definitely a place where people can always go and get it. And hopefully also Book Baby. So I think like almost anywhere where there are books, it is there. And it took a while, but it is worldwide. It took it took like 6 months from the first release for it to finally be available overseas because I got a bunch of requests.
Wow.
And had such a hard time trying to fill that request. But my wife helped me out, and we just did what we had to do. Called everybody we had to call to get it worked out, but it's all worked out now. So yeah, anywhere.
All right, Fashion Dolls, there you have it. You guys can purchase Take Flight everywhere, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, on all platforms where books are sold. All right?
Yeah.
So we're about to have some fun. It is Friday, you guys. And you know what that means? It is time for the Rapid Five. And then we're going to go inside Miss Stevie's beauty bag. So everyone wants to know, you guys have been complimenting me on the hair and makeup this week. I'm not responsible for it. Shout outs to my makeup artist and beauty contributor here at Style, Melanie Nalamar Bridges. Every episode has been a journey. New York Fashion Week is in full swing. So I wanted to do something a little bit out of my element than what I would normally do, which is the blonde. All right? So we're going to start off with the Rapid Five. What are five things that Dominic can't live without? And it can be anything, your favorite drink, your favorite food, whatever you like. What are 5 things that Dominic can't live
Okay, water, family, um, my laptop, headsets, and um, mm, so many darn foods that I love. Something of chocolate. I need every day. I gotta snack a little bit.
without? All right, there you have it. That's 5. All right, fashion dolls. Now, the secrets, it's out. You guys are going to know what we use to make sure that my face looks beautiful. The makeup is on point effortlessly. All right. So let's go inside Miss Stevie's beauty bag. All right. So, what do we have here today? Okay. So, one of my favorite eyeliners that I use, the reason why my eyeliner always comes out perfectly is because I use L'Oreal's the Super Slim Liquid Eyeliner. And I love it because of how dense it is. I don't know if you guys can see that. There we go. And it gives you a great perfect line. So anytime anyone wants to get the perfect eyeliner, that is my go-to. Or I normally would get the one that has the attachment as well too, that you can dip your brush in and then just flick it. That's how I do it. All right, lashes. My favorite lashes that I use whenever I do an eye look is Kiss Lash Couture Masterpiece. And the ones that I'm wearing today are Avant-Garde. And what I love about Avant-Garde is that they're so flared out, it makes you look like you're wearing cat eyes. So that's how I get that cat eye effect, is I use these Kiss Masterpiece Couture. So you guys can pick them up at CVS or anywhere. So I do a little bit of high-low whenever we do our makeup here for Style by Stevie. Now, how does my makeup stay intact? How do I keep that dewy glow? I use L'Oreal's Infallible Pro Spray and Set. That is my secret. Now, I am thinking about getting Patrick Starr's One Size. Beyonce used it just recently at her Renaissance World Tour, and it was raining where it was at, and the makeup did not move. So I might try that one next. All right, more eyes. Um, I love NARS Climax Mascara. This is my go-to, or either I will use Maybelline's Great Lash in the green and pink too. That is another one of my go-tos. Lips. Of course, everyone wants to know, how does the lips stay in place? Okay, Maybelline's, let's see. Yep, Superstay Matte Ink in the shade of Loyalist. I love a nude lip. You can't go wrong without a nude lip. And that is what gets me through the day. So that is what is in Miss Stevie's beauty bag, ladies and gentlemen, in case you guys were wondering. So I'm always changing up. I'm always evolving, always doing different things with my look. Like just not too long ago, we did a berry colored lip, and that was for the fall. So as the months get cooler, the colors will get darker. So I go along with the color schemes, along with the fashion trends that are on trend for New York Fashion Week. Like today, Helmut Lang just did his show. And what was on trend was a lot of prints. So that is why you see the orange checkerboard print today. So you might see leather next week. Who knows? So stay on trend with what's going on with New York fashion. And that is what is in Miss Stevie's beauty bag, fashion dolls. So without further ado, before we close out this interview, Dom, are there any gems that you would like to give to people who are looking to get into acting?
Um, I actually do some acting workshops, and I always either open or close by talking to my students about branding, in the sense that if you don't create your own brand and mind your own brand, somebody else will. As we mentioned earlier about Hollywood and stereotyping, um, it's a real thing. That's why so many people talk about it. It's not just a black thing. It's not just a white thing. I've heard people, black, white, Asian, Latino, everything, talk about feeling branded, in some way. And a lot of times it's a brand that they did not ask for or want. So I try to tell people getting into this business to know yourself and know what you want. Know what you want out of it, so you can be in control of that brand, that look. Because eventually that's what they're selling. Samuel Jackson does, Citibank commercials and everything, because there's a brand that's Samuel Jackson, and they buy that brand, um, and it makes a huge difference, because a lot of people don't pay attention, but your brand and who you are can be worth millions. And I say you should get the most value out of it the way you want it. So yeah.
And to add along with what Dominic just said, today's final thought comes from Mariah Carey. And this is one of my favorite lyrics from her. It says, "There's a light that shines brightly. They can try to take it from you, but they can't." And that comes from Mariah Carey. So my advice to anybody that is looking to get into this business is shine. Be your own individual being. That's what makes you yourself. Individuality is key, and authenticity. I'm making my business to be as authentic as possible with my viewers out here that watch this platform everywhere. This will be interview 503. We completed our 500th interview just not too long ago. And now this is interview 503. So we are still on the go. And that is my advice to anybody, to keep going, to follow your passions, your heart's desires. I create vision boards. So almost everything that I put into fruition, that it's like putting the pieces of the puzzle of my life together. And that would be my advice to people out here who are looking to get into what I'm doing, which is hosting or becoming an actor. Follow your passion. And yes, we all have to get some sort of lesson from someone. We can't go out here and do it on our own. There's always somebody out here to lift a helping hand who can help you along the way. And we got to push that ego to the side. Even I've had to learn. I'm a Scorpio, and sometimes we can be the most stubborn. We don't listen, and I'm woman enough to admit it. Sometimes we do not listen. We are stubborn, and I've had to break out of that. I've learned that you got to be able to accept constructive criticism and push that ego to the side and let people help you. I do it because I've grown up so independent and was raised to be independent. All of us, me, my brothers, as well as my sisters, we were all raised to do our own thing, be our own individual being, and do it independently. You know, our parents made sure to distill that into us. So that would be my advice to people out here looking to get into the business is shine. Don't let anybody dim your light. Be your own individual self. If you're going to a casting call audition and there's thousands of people going for the main role that you want, you make sure that you make yourself unforgettable. Remember, and you're not always going to get the lead role. A lot of people want the main role or next to the lead role, and you're not going to get that. Sometimes you have to start off in the background as an extra. Um, I did some acting. I did a horror film back in 2021, and that was my first experience ever doing a film. No experience of acting whatsoever. Went into the table read and nailed it with flying colors. And it came to life. But it's about bringing your personality to whatever it is that you do, whether it's fashion, whether it's acting, music. You do your thing and let the next person do their thing. Now, yes, you can compare whatever, but you're your own individual being, and originality is key. So that is the final thought of the day, Fashion Dolls. Dominic, let everyone know where they can follow you at.
Uh, Jump on IG, hit me at Team Dominic Daniel, or I guess on Facebook, or TikTok, Dominic Daniel. Uh, there's another Dominic Daniel out there. Doesn't look like me, and apparently has done some crimes. I discovered this.
Uh-oh.
So if you see that cat, that ain't me. That ain't me. But other than that, yeah, if you plug the name in, it'll pop up, and yeah, I'm out there, and I can't wait. I got some exciting stuff that I'm not allowed to talk about right now, which makes me mad. But is out there, and I'm happy to have just been a part of work, and I can't wait till I can talk about more stuff. And you got to have me back on when I can actually talk about some stuff as well too.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah,
Now,
yeah.
in case you guys missed it, Style by Stevie is going to be back in January 2024. That will be my 18th season. We have been doing this since 2020, 2014. I was about to say 2020. 2014. That's when we started, and we're still going strong. So we've already got guests set up for the new year. So you guys just stay tuned. You don't know who's coming on in the new year. So stay tuned.
Thank
All right.
you, Stevie.
You are so welcome. And I would love to have you back on again. Like you said, we were
Yes,
able to talk about it. I
would
know.
love to.
I know.
I have a new book and some new stuff to talk about, so it'll be great.
All right, fashion dolls. With that being said, the look of the week is up. It is 3 different looks. Make sure you guys go and vote for your favorite look of the week. Make sure you guys go and pick up Dominic's book, Take Flight, which is available at Amazon, Barnes& and Noble, wherever books are sold. Make sure you guys go and check that out. Subscribe to Style by Stevie Daytime. Thank you guys so much again for your unconditional love and support. You just don't know how much that means to me, whether it's tuning in to see who's coming on or tuning in to see how she's wearing her hair today or what she's wearing. I still appreciate the love. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Joining me next week, we have Cody Cowell and Ethic Dewan. So make sure you guys stay tuned. That lineup will be dropping soon. Take care, everyone. And Dominic, thank you for coming to the dollhouse.
Hey, thank you for inviting me to the dollhouse. Ciao.
You are so welcome. Take care, everyone.